number of basic sort of methods that we use to improve the world in some ways. One is obviously service. I call service any time when someone who's unhappy, they don't have something, maybe they're hungry, and someone else gives him something, gives him, typical thing you often say, you give someone a fish, and they'll eat for a day. That's sort of a problem. If someone's hungry or doesn't have a home, service is one method to fix this. Is this effective? What's the assumption about its effectiveness?
It's going to help? What do you mean?
It helps one person at a time.
It helps one, okay. Okay. And what does it say about the effectiveness of that?
It doesn't change the underlying problem.
Okay. Advocacy. And that is often when you have the same hungry person or whatever, someone does something to speak on their behalf. And they also, and this is the advocate. And they're, pretty competent, they know how to speak. To whom do they advocate? Who does so they have someone who's probably well-educated, professional, speaks on the poor child's behalf to whom?
Well, they advocate with the government.
And what's an assumption embedded in advocacy as a theory?
Those who you're speaking for may not have an effective voice.
Right. That they can't effectively speak for themselves. Now, is that true? Not always. But it's important, what I want to get across is when someone does this, are they asking, can someone speak for themselves? Sometimes they don't even bother to ask, they just go right, because there's different ways you could do it. You could get the child, you could teach the child or someone else. I mean, I have a 9-year-old, she can speak for herself pretty effectively. A pretty frequent thing we see in the world is what we call mobilizing, where when there's a problem, could be breast cancer, something like you mentioned, there's a march or a walk. There's a lot of people just walking in the street, or sometimes they hold signs that say, cure breast cancer or whatever they do. Can you think of examples of that kind of, this strategy or method, mobilizing? A march, okay. What was the assumption behind the March on Washington?
If
About
1,000 people showed up, the government would change its stance. 100,000 people showed up, the government would change its stance.
That's the assumption. Is it a realistic, an effective strategy?
Do you watch the news? Darfur still happening?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work.
The other, I think, frequent thing we see when there are problems is something some of us call just activism. Activism is where generally there's an individual, they do a lot of stuff. They may, write letters, they may march, they may do a whole lot of things, but basically it's, it's about me and what I'm going to do. And the assumption is that my activity is going to make a difference. The thing that we call community organizing is, what I want to convey is that it's distinct from those other strategies in a number of ways. But the thing about an organizer, what makes this strategy distinct is the fact that they're building an organization. It has rules, it has a structure. By a structure, it will have bylaws, how we do things around here. It will have legal standing. It'll have some leadership. It'll have actual people who are designated to actually decide what the organization does. Very important thing, it has members. And members are generally, I would say almost always, people who pay dues. And dues is money in some ways. And it has people who are, questioning whether they should join. But this boundary is real important. There's generally some point where you take a step and say, I'm going to join. Has relationships are incredibly important. That within the organization there are relationships among all these people, among the staff, this person up here, they know each other on a deep level. It's not just, hi, how are you? To be effective, this organization needs to be around for a long period of time. An organization that's here today and gone tomorrow is not going to be effective. An organization that doesn't have strong relationships among all its members, that people really know each other on a deep level, is not going to be effective. That it needs money, dues, membership, leadership, legal standing, structure, all this stuff. The assumption is that the kind of problems that the members and other people, even these folks that aren't face, are not going to be changed quickly. They're not going to be changed with a one afternoon march. They're not going to be changed by just giving somebody, some food. The problem of hunger is not going to be solved by the food bank. It's going to be solved, if it's going to be solved, through an ongoing organization that really has the power, and this is a key element, that has the power to deal with all the forces that are keeping people hungry, or keeping children in problems, or killing people in Darfur. That you don't get this kind of power without an ongoing organization.
If you call, I will answer. If you fall, I'll pick you up. And if you cause this disaster, I'll point you